Thank y'all for being here. I know it's after lunch, and most of us after lunch, most of our blood is in our stomach, so it's hard to think, but just bear with me. I am going to go through my Empower, and I'm just going to speak from my experience and all the things that I feel like really work for it. I love it to be interactive, meaning that if you have a question, just raise your hand. I'll stop what I'm saying and I'll answer it, because I feel like there's just so much more I can get out there when I answer your questions. So don't be shy. If you have a question, just ask it, and it's gonna be just fine. We'll get through this. That's an exciting video. My name is Henry Ramirez. I am a board certified OBGYN. Prior to going to medical school, I have a master's in occupational therapy, which I worked in pelvic floor rehab for a bit. I also have a fellowship in integrative medicine. One of the things, I still remember very clear the first time I ever saw a patient deliver a baby. I was first year medical school. I was sitting behind my attending, and as that baby's head crown just kept coming out, I kept thinking, no way. There is no way that baby's gonna fit through there. And I mean, I was saying this out loud, and my attendee's like, what, do you think we need to do a C-section? I was like, yeah, take her back. That's not gonna fit. It's not gonna fit. Lord behold, about 10 minutes later, the vagina stretches just like you guys know it does, as big as it does. This baby comes out, and I'm like, holy crap. And as I said, having a graduate degree in occupational therapy, the whole time I thought to myself, holy, yeah, that's gonna take all kinds of rehab. There's no way you send that home on its own. So as students, you get to follow these patients all the way through. You see them again postpartum, and in postpartum, I'm seeing them, and I'm still there waiting to hear what's the rehab plan for this patient. And the doctor has her undressed. We look, her vagina's gaping open. And he says, okay, 6 weeks is up. Do your Kegels, and you can get back to being normal. And I was just absolutely flabbergasted. That is our standard of care. On top of that being our standard of care, we also got in the way of that patient's healing in the postpartum period. So how many OBGYNs we have here? So what's the standard of care for pain medication and a vaginal delivery postpartum these days? We're worried about the breast milk. We're not worried about mom. We put her on high dose Motrin, right? For every 8 hours, 800 milligrams of Motrin. What does that do? If you're an athlete and you injure yourself, what are the 4 things that we do in the first 72 hours before we even think about putting them on Motrin? Rise, rest, ice, compression, elevate. Why do we do that? Because if we knock out all the swelling, then all that tissue damage that we caused, that just happened from the vagina distending 200%, doesn't get back to normal. Then, as I said, when we see them again, what do? You're perfectly fine. Get back to being yourself. You're gonna do your Kegels. So then this patient goes home. She starts leaking. She asks mom, grandma, Mom, I'm leaking every time I cough and I sneeze. What's the deal? Be blessed, baby. Be blessed, you had a kid. Learn to be grateful. Mom, it hurts when I have sex. Fake it. But I'm dry. This is what you women hear. But I'm dry. use lubrication. Why are you griping so much? That's what our women are getting for every time they're having any of these things. And the same thing when we do surgery. When I do a hysterectomy on a patient, or when I did a hysterectomy on a patient, what did we do? 6 weeks later, we look inside, we make sure that that scar is healed, and we tell them, you're perfectly fine, be yourself. Is that the way we treat our athletes? If an athlete has an injured knee before he gets back on the football field, soccer field, basketball field, what do we make sure happens? They have full range of motion, they're strong, so they don't injure themselves again. Why do we not do that for our women?